Sounds, camera, action with inspiring leaders. Today's topic is the future of education in an AI world, where we explore how learning, philosophy, and technology are shaping tomorrow's classroom. We are joined by Mr. Barry Cooper, founding principal of the Global College. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me. I'm guest number 12, so lucky 12. I think I love that. So it's a good number.
To start with, tell us about your journey in education, your vision, your belief.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's a podcast in itself, I think. So I started a long time ago. Many of my family are in kind of service careers. So my father was a soldier for a time. My uncle an airman. My uncle a priest. I thought I was going to become a soldier or a priest or do something of that sort. I went to university and did the usual thing, went and worked at a bank, City of London. Absolutely hated it. Worst possible career choice for someone like me. And then my best friend was leaving teaching to go and become a police officer. This is something else from my background. Lots of my friends are soldiers, police, they all
Wow.
this sort of stuff. Again, service. And he said, look, you should try teaching. And I tried it and I got hooked. I loved it. So I worked in British boarding schools in Epsom College and then Loreto in just outside Edinburgh, and then went overseas to Wellington College in Shanghai, Brighton College in Dubai, and now we opened this here. So I arrived here in 2020. We opened in 2022. So we were now a DP only college, so the IB diploma, and we have about 310 this year. We'll move up to about 340, 350 next year.
Wow, that's a lot of experience, and you've been traveled in different countries. And now I'm going to ask you, I know it's going to be a difficult question for you, but how the education system was different in each country. Is there any comparison? It's just similar, or what do you like have to
I
say?
think I think because a lot of the time it's international system or it's British system. The national systems are all very different. So for those of you who are listening who are in China, you know about the Gaokao. If you go to in Scotland, is different from England. So there's lots of national systems that are different. I think the biggest difference I found was with the nuance in what parents and students were looking for. So I found certain subjects in some places would be far more important than they would be in others. I found that certain pinch points in the year became quite an intense moment for students in some places rather than others. I think what I did find was that people were more similar than they were different. I think parents are, I'm a parent, it's our default position is fear. We're always terrified we're making the wrong decision, so we're just, constantly kind of gripped by that. And that's true of every parent around the world. Doesn't matter if you're living in Shanghai, in Dubai, in Madrid, in Edinburgh, in London. We're all terrified and we want reassurance. I think teachers are pretty much the same. They want to do a good job for the children they have in front of them. And I think students as well are pretty much the same. They want to learn, they're curious, they're ambitious, and they want an environment that helps them be that.
True. Well said about everything what you have mentioned about the education system. When I was reading about you, you describe education as a team sports, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, what does that mean to you?
It means that this whole idea of it takes a village to raise a child. In a school, it takes the student and the teaching team, the leadership team, the parents, the extended contacts, all of those people, to all be on the same page for that young boy or girl. Is we want you to be a better version of yourself tomorrow than you were today. And I think in education, the best results you ever get are the results you get from working together. So, and that's not necessarily, hey, let's all work on this particular plan, but it's where you're able to listen with intention to what parents are telling you, what students are telling you, what colleagues are telling you. As a school leader, I get the best out of what I do here by listening to and trusting the teaching team, listening to and trusting the student team, so the students who are here, and listening to and trusting the parents. And I think if you can bring all that together in the right way, you can get a much better result for your school. I think, though, it's a very difficult thing to do, and I will never say I am the expert in anything. I think all teachers are amateurs, and we want to do the very best for the kids. But what I would say is, if you try to formalize it too much, if you try to framework it too much, then it becomes something quite rigid. So alongside that, you have to be flexible. You have to be a bit Johan Cruyff and think of education as total football. Everyone needs to play in every position.
True, 100%. And I love that, what you have written in your description. I was reading about that. It's really quite inspiring, your journey and everything, what I've read so far. So, as the founding principal of the Global College, what vision did you want to bring to your education?
I mean, here my job is very much to try and ensure that students and teachers have agency to work within what the IB. I love the IB. I think the IB is a great system to work within the IB and create for themselves opportunities to do more than they might do elsewhere. Um, I don't think, I don't have any grand visions about, world conquering groups or schools on every continent. For me, every day is about working with individuals, working with my colleagues, and working with the children that I do. I still teach. And working with the children who are here, the students who are here, and working with the families and trying to influence the environment and the structure of that environment to make sure it's a place that they can have control over an individualized approach to the future. And I think that's one of the most important things we do as educators.
Amazing. So, you spoke about IB as your like the favorite curriculum as you were talking about. So,
Yeah, I think
has
so.
it
Yeah.
changed over the years how IB was like, when you first enter education? Is that
Yeah, it has. It's become. I mean, I think the guy running it at the moment, Ollie Pekka Heinonen, I think he's a visionary. I think he's great. I think he's got the right ideas, and he's trying very hard to connect the IB to the environment that we live in today. So I've met him on a couple of occasions, and he talks very eloquently about the dealing with the modern world, dealing with AI, looking at how we move forward and ensure that our young people get a great education rather than great scores. He wants, he believes in education. I think the IB provides opportunities for students to work, in some cases in a project-based environment, in some cases in a personal development environment, but it's about skills and it's about developing those skills. And so for me, it removes a lot of the didactic elements that you find in other national systems, especially, but also I think are still, there in the British system, which for the last few years has been regarded as quite a good curriculum for going overseas. And I think the IB has overtaken that now. I'm a Brit, so I'm proud to be British, but I think the IB it does what it does far better than the A levels.
okay? And that's when you were saying about grades, I do understand how, I'm not saying particularly the British curriculum, but I'm saying a lot of curriculums are really running towards a grade and the pressure is really real,
Yeah,
especially when we talk about the students struggling. It's,
yeah.
it's a real pressure, their mental health, everything is getting affected. I mean, we're talking about IB curriculum. I believe it's more about the real world application when talk
I
about.
think that's a really interesting word, application. So within the IB, you're given credit if you're able to apply what you know to the prompt or to the question in a way that is appropriate. So and it's about using the information and using the skills, as opposed to other systems which are often about regurgitation or following a set pattern. And so with that, that's why I think I am a bit of a fan. Yeah.
IB, great. Let's talk about AI. As everyone is
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about AI, is
Can we get away
rapidly.
from it? Yeah.
Oh, we can't get away from it. It's changing a lot. So, what excites you most, and what concerns you most about it, about AI?
So what excites me most, I think, is the opportunities it throws up, and what scares me most is the opportunities it throws up. So I think what excites me is also what scares me about AI. I think the at the moment AI, artificial intelligence, it's not really intelligence; it's an algorithm. It's an LLM that's used to give a certain response to a designated prompt. I think for our young people who are working in, especially in certain subjects, it's better for some than others. I think it's a great way it can be used as a collaborator. It can be used as an engine that will give students ideas about how they can think. I think the big problem that we face is how do we teach our young people how to think about artificial intelligence? Because going back to what you were mentioning about grades, there's a drive to score highly rather than to understand. Because at school, at university, it's all about, can I get the metric to move on to the next step? And in that way, I think if we think in that way, we do a disservice to the students that we have in our care. Because what we really want is for them to be better than us. We don't want cookie cutter versions of us. We want the upgrade. And the upgrade comes if they have the ability to think clearly, to really dig into the problems of the world, and to come up with very human solutions. So there are many worries that AI is a pathway towards giving away your thinking, towards giving up your independence of thought, towards an algorithm that will only bring back the very global north, white, Anglo-centric responses. And I stand by that. Many people will argue with me about that, but I stand by that. It is global north, it is white, it is Anglo-centric. And so as we move forward, that's going to change. And we will have more ability to use these tools in a way that helps us be better human beings. So I think the opportunity to help young people is to get them at the start and give them rules and approaches to using this AI. It's not going away. So everyone who's saying, ban AI, get rid of it, it's not going away. It's not going anywhere. Ensuring we understand how we can use this to our best ends is going to be the way that we best help our young people. And so for me, my starting point is philosophy. And how do you think about thinking? How do you think about the problems that you have in front of you? And using these different layered frameworks to think about artificial intelligence is a way for me to understand myself. But also it's a way for me to explain how I understand myself so others can start to understand how they think about these problems as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of
It
course.
did in my head,
I was
but
just lost in your conversation. You were just
yeah.
making so many good points. I was like into it. Now, I'm a parent. I have a 15-year-old boy. So I know the struggle is real as a
Yeah.
mom to be keeping them away. And I'll give an example. The other day, he was writing for his final exams. Okay. So he was like, I have to give the writing. And the teacher said she's going to check if it's AI written or not. Now, as a mom, as a parent, what advice would you like to give it to the parents who are actually struggling at home to make sure what the child is doing? It's completely like, of course, they can take help, they can take clues and everything. That's what AI is for. But their ideas, their imagination, that should not be a full stop on
I
that,
had a really interesting conversation with a professor at Warwick, and he was talking about the use of AI. And rather than talking about the writing of a thing, he said, well, can the students defend that they are the author? So, for example, could you consider AI to be another writing tool where you take the ideas and you develop through the AI your approach to this particular problem? So I think a lot of what we see now, and for me as a parent as well, so I would want my children to understand the words they're putting on the page, to understand the ideas that they're standing behind. Because otherwise what's happening is there's that disconnect and we're just doing this for grades, and then, well, why? The teacher is using AI to mark an AI generated piece of paper. So we might as well just all go to the beach. It's so, there needs to be struggle. There needs to be, people need to go into this and really kind of work hard to try and understand the task that's been set them and the reasons as well why it's important that they struggle with it. So I think there's no right answer to that at all. But I think for the students who are at home, having that conversation with them, and I think this is going to happen more and more in our different curriculums around the world is viva voce, is having to describe what you're doing, having to talk about it, having to present it. I think more and more of this is going to take place. So the conversations with young people about what they've done and how they've done it is going to be key.
True. And that's shocking when we look at these things. To be really honest with you, sometimes I'm happy that my son knows where to look for information because I don't know a lot of information. And I said, yeah, I don't know. Go and look for it, research. Like as a teacher, we can say that same thing to our students. Go research about it.
Yeah.
That is actually a plus point when kids, they start researching about certain topics and get more information that teacher is not aware of. And that's amazing. But when we talk about teachers, how can teachers remain meaningful and impactful in an AI-driven future? How can we do that?
How can we do that? I think by challenging students in different ways. I think the questions, it's no longer adequate for me. I mean, I'm a historian, so it's no longer adequate for me to be able to talk about the Muromachi period of medieval Japan, or for me to be able to talk about the Sengoku period or the Tokugawa period, these sorts of things. It's more meaningful for me to be able to ask the students questions about what do you think was the biggest cause of this, and to ask them to defend it. So ridiculously, what we're going to see is with the use of AI, the actual education we're going to see is moving back towards very classical levels of education, Socratic dialogue, where question and answer and discussion, dialectic becomes the major way in which we work with young people. So I can give the students as much material as possible. What I enjoy with students is sitting there and just talking to them and saying, well, tell me why you think this is the case. Defend it. And then tell me what else you could think. Okay, now tell me why that's a bad idea. And the more they're able to dig into it, the better. I think another part of this, there's lots of studies that show, the use of a pen is actually far better at helping young people retain information, develop cognitive processing than, the use of a laptop or a screen. So, irony, two teachers are talking to each other through a screen, but, when we should be, writing letters a la, 84 Charing Cross Road. But I think as we move forward with the abilities of these large language models and different ways of applying it to studies, I think we're actually also going to see a renaissance, a rebirth of these classical techniques within the classroom that allow young people to truly understand the metacognition, why they think the way they think and why they're thinking these ideas or what they think about these ideas. That's at least what I hope.
As you're talking about history, so are there lessons from history that education systems still fail to learn?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. But there are lessons from history that we all fail to learn repeatedly. I mean, this is where I could get really cheeky and dive into politics, but I won't. It's like I think I'm just thinking about what we've been talking about, technology. So the impact of technologies on a society, what happens, and what is it that's important about that technology? What does it change? I think one of the lessons is often there are unforeseen changes to a society because of the nature of a technology, and we don't see exactly how it's going to play out. So it's always to be wary of how things are coming to us. I think as well, often there is an interest in maximizing profit and maximizing outcome rather than thinking about what a long-term benefit can be. There's this wonderful, I don't know, maybe it's from Cicero, about societies grow great when they plant trees under which they know they're never going to sit. So thinking about the future, thinking about, not just, my 5-year plan and my investments, but my, 50-year plan, when I might be an old person, actually my 500-year plan. What's my 500-year plan for this? What's going to happen next? And I think that's the lesson when it comes to tech, when it comes to education, when it comes to, society building, we've failed to grasp. And I think we've actually gone backwards a little bit in terms of what we see today in a socio-political business kind of sense, the immediacy of social media, the immediacy of clicks and likes and shares and views giving us a financial reward, then it becomes a much more immediate society rather than one that thinks about the future, unfortunately.
I believe when you're talking about that, I understand the financial system you're talking about. It's human connection is missing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I believe in human connection so much, energies. And I always say about all my podcasts, I prefer to sit with like the person and to feel the energy, to, have that human connection, to know the person. And, even I've seen people, even the students, you sit with a child, listen to him or her for 5 minutes, you will
Yeah.
understand what the child is going through.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a really interesting, just on the wider education thing, the online schools, for example. So there's a fantastic online school in the UK called Minerva, run by a guy called Hugh Viney. And within it, what he's done is he's taken this idea of young people kind of online learning, but he doubled down on the pastoral care. He doubled down on the kind of the face to face. He doubled down on the connection. And when I've spoken to him, he said, "Look, this makes it so much better because you have people who need an online school for various reasons, because traditional school's not working for them, or because they travel a lot, or because they're not in a place where they can get to the school that's going to give them what they need." But that exactly what you're talking about, that human connection is so vital, and that's what makes the difference in our classrooms.
Exactly. And I think that we are missing so much, especially when we have online classes. The child misses that.
Yeah,
Kids have to be together, playing together, having fun together, feel the energies, fight, talk. Like that's so important. And I think we are lucky that we have been raised in an atmosphere where we didn't have any screens.
yeah,
And like, I feel lucky when I look at these kids now, because it's so difficult to take the iPads away from them. And there are different reasons for that. And I'm not saying we can get away with it. Of course, we have to make sure the child is aware what are the benefits and what are the consequences at the same time for the screens, we are
yeah.
giving them.
I remember my 4-year-old almost bought a car online. I mean, they didn't almost buy a car because there would have to be a lot of other things, but it was kind of this, it was one of those sites, buy now. It's like, what on earth is happening? He saw a car and kept pressing. But as well, I think, one of the things that really worries me is the content online, and the opportunity our young people have to access such a wide range of views. There's a great thing by who was it? Umberto Eco, I think, which was, these people who spout nonsense online, used to be the guys who would get drunk in a bar and spout nonsense in a bar, and then everyone could ignore them. But today, people think that an online influencer has the same weight as a Nobel Prize winner. And so there's no, well, actually, this person, you're talking about, okay, you think the earth is flat. This person's won a Nobel Prize in physics. The two are not the same. And so I think what we also have to be is mindful of and curate in many ways for, especially as parents at home, but also with what our students are accessing as in the classroom. What are they accessing? What's the political agenda? Why are these people writing it? Where does this come from? Is it peer reviewed? Are other people saying, hey, these are interesting ideas, let's talk about it? Or is just a lunatic voice in the wilderness that the kids have latched onto? So manosphere stuff as well, the Red Pill Brigade and all of this, we have to just really nail it and get it out of the ecosystem for our young people.
Knowledge and awareness is so important.
Oh,
So important. Knowledge we are getting from online, and we don't know if, as I was watching, I don't know, it was one of the news channel I was looking, they were talking about sometimes the child is watching something, the knowledge he's gaining, he thinks it's the right information, but it's not right,
yeah.
you know. So
So
the
it's the
information they're watching in videos, they think, oh no, this is right, but it's actually not.
No, it's like the Oracle at Delphi. We're assuming that there's these new machines, and the what we're seeing online is to be trusted. And when in fact, we have to be much more Cartesian about the whole thing and just decide we don't trust anything unless we can prove it beyond doubt. And even then, we need to balance that with what other people are saying as well. And one of my suggestions to the students is always, if you're going to read one newspaper, read the newspaper that's the diametric opposite. You know, I don't really, I don't talk about politics with the students. I don't want to influence which way they see the world, but what I do want them to do is have a really broad view of the world, to allow them to make their own decisions, because that's really what teachers should be doing, is showing them where to look. Don't tell them what to see.
Exactly. And just explore. I know that it's a child is going to make mistakes because they're kids. They have to make mistakes. But what are we doing next after that mistake? Have we learned our lesson? Are we ready for the next step? That's so important.
But today, I think because of the social media influence there, and because if you make a mistake, every single person near you is a potential videographer, that this can be captured and then used. So there's an anxiety about putting yourself out there, about answering a question in class, about trying something new, about developing and pushing yourself, because you fear you might fall, and if you do, you feel that is permanent. But it's not. Failure is a natural part of success, and you keep failing until you learn and you move on to the next layer.
True, like we all do that, man. I always tell my son,
All the time.
you have to try, you have to try. What do you
Yeah.
think, your parents never failed? Of course we did. But they will nothing like social media where they are just bringing that, or just because I belong to my father served the country, he was in Air Force. So I've been raised in an atmosphere where it's all packed, all the army camps and stuff. So my dad always, so it's been a very disciplined life we have lived, all three of us. So my dad always told me, failing is fine. As many times you want to fail, that's okay. You just need to stand up again and just do it again.
Yep.
Even if you have to start
Absolutely.
from the scratch, just do
Absolutely.
it.
I think there's kind of the panopticon of kind of the modern world, though, that encompasses our children and our students, is something that they're intimately aware of. And so there is, I think that when we were kids, we would go off and play in the woods, or head off elsewhere, and just it's an opportunity to go and just explore. But now it's something much more different.
True. Let's talk about philosophy. And I know you're quite a fan of philosophy. So philosophy encourages questioning, right, in some
Yeah.
way. So do you think schools encourage enough critical thinking today?
No, not at all. But parents don't encourage it, and TV doesn't encourage it. No one encourages it enough.
So what we can do to,
I think the more we read, the better. I think the weapon or the tool of a teacher and the tool of a student is language. I think the more you engage with language, the more you engage with ideas, the better your eventual outcomes for you are going to be. For me, philosophy is just simply, it's the expression of an idea. So when I say philosophy, I mean, you could kind of stuff like this, I've got my desk, but also novels and writing and science fiction and anything any piece of art, art itself is philosophy, is the expression of an idea in another form. I think the more our students are exposed to these ideas of expression and these different forms of expression, the more they will try to express themselves in different ways. So as schools, what I try and do as a teacher is I try to give young people as broad an idea about history, for example, as possible. So when I teach history, I also teach them the philosophy of the period we're doing. I teach them through novels of the period that we're doing. I try to get them to read poetry of the period that we're doing. They hate that, but it's important for them to put themselves in the perspective of the people who are there. But I think the more young people read, the more they have the tools that these other writers are using, and they start to stick. And they then can do the writing, and the more young people write, the better they get at that. And the more they read, the better they get at reading. And this is another thing. Reading is something that you have to train into it. You can't just decide, I'm going to pick up Kant and give it a go. work your way up to it. So, and also try to understand why you're reading it. What are you reading it for? You're reading it for literature, in which case you're going to be sorely disappointed. If you're reading it, are you reading it for the ideas? Then fantastic, but maybe you want to start with something that then helps you understand those ideas. So a trick I used to do was when I there's a philosopher called Wittgenstein, which I tried reading when I was younger. I did not get it. I didn't really understand it. So I do this now with a lot of things that I've maybe tried before and haven't done. I buy a biography and I read all about this person, and then I try and read something that talks about the philosophy of, and then I work my way up to actually read these kind of more difficult books because I fail as much as anyone else to sit and to read and to understand these kind of complex ideas. Some people are brilliant. I've got a great colleague here, Maggie, who she's the vice principal, and she picks up these books and she's a genius, and she reads them and she explains them to me perfectly. And for that 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, I get it, I understand it. And then you leave, you're like, hang on, what did she say again? So it's, but I think it's, the key differentiator is reading for our young people. And one of the biggest signifiers of potential achievement at school in the homes of young people is a bookshelf. And this is from like various studies across the UK over the last 50 years.
And that's so important. Even I prefer it. I don't even like reading digital copies. I prefer to like hold the book,
I'm the
feel
same.
it. I'm so old school. I'm literally so old school. I like
It's
that.
it's I do this as well. So it's I'm all about the notes. I'm all about
I
the
do the
sticky notes.
same.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but this is, I mean, I this is Epictetus, but I'm trying to teach to some of the students here, but who are interested in maybe doing it at university.
Okay. And how is their reaction when you read to them? Are they into it, interesting, or like,
The students.
yeah?
So I mean, I mean, what I try to do is so as a headmaster, it's quite easy to do. You have a little bit of a budget. You buy some interesting books. You buy the books that you think, okay, they're gonna dig this.
Yeah.
And you start them off slowly. You say, look, try this. And you encourage. And sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. If you don't like, I always tell them, read a chapter. If it's not for you, bring it back. Let's talk about what might be, your cup of tea.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's poetry, sometimes it's literature, sometimes it's science fiction or fantasy, but just read, and that will get you where you want to go.
Exactly, 100%. I love it. With like reading is something, it's so important. And as I said earlier, it's not about digital reading. I always tell my son, grab a book, open the book, read, you know.
And I make notes as well. It's I had one student, I sent her away with a copy of the history of Japan. It was a small volume, really good. And I gave her a stack of post-it notes as well. And I just said, I want to see all of these in there. Go. And she did it.
It's nice. That's amazing. So, what is one belief about education that you have changed your mind about over the years?
That I need to be right, that I need to be the smartest person in the room because I'm not. I think and that's even as a school leader. I'm not the smartest person in the room when it's a senior leadership team, or when I'm meeting with the whole school, or when I'm meeting with my classes, or I'm meeting students. It's about two people coming at a problem as equals. I have more experience and I understand what I've seen before with students, but the student or the teacher or the stakeholder, if you want to use that word, on the other side also knows more about their issues than I do. And so we both need to understand one another. And I think that in the past, it's often been a case of kind of top down. There are schools in the UK, for example, I forget the lady's name, but there's, the strictest headmistress in, or the strictest headmaster in. I'm just saying, but that's an imposition of a set of ideas on young people rather than actually sitting back and listening to them. Now, I'm not saying my way is the right way, but I do think, and I think if I went too far with that, laissez-faire attitude, I think that's a problem as well. But I think showing people, whoever they are, they can be a billionaire or they can be a student on a fail, showing them exactly the same level of respect is really important.
Exactly. Amazing. So, if every student left school remembering just one lesson from life, what would you hope it would be?
There's a Winnie the Pooh thing, and I always get it wrong. It's the students. Oh, I'm gonna have to look it up, and so I actually get this properly right. And I've used this quote before, and it's where is it? Yeah, so it's they need to understand that they are oh crikey, where is it? Come on now. That you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you know. And I think that's a really important thing. Is that young people underestimate themselves all the time, and what they need to know is they have more in them. And often it's a case of confidence, or a case of someone never saying you can, or it's a case of never having had that experience. But I think in each of those cases, they are braver, stronger, and smarter than they think they are. And they must always seek to push themselves forward, in whatever circumstance that may be.
Yeah, but do you think it's because of they always think that someone is judging us all the time? They think what other people are thinking about them is because of
Absolutely. Oh
that?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's the Seneca thing, isn't it? You suffer more in imagination than you do in reality. So your imagination about what no one thinks about you. You egomaniac. No, they're thinking about themselves and they're worried about what you're thinking about them. So it's trying to disabuse young people of that and make sure they understand that everyone else out there is as frightened, scared, and unsure as they are. And actually, if you just sit down and have a cup of coffee with someone and talk to people, then what you find is you find other people like you. And exactly what you were saying earlier, you make a human connection, and that can be the difference.
Exactly, because whenever I talk to my kids, even my 5 year old, she will come, no, but what my friend is going to say about it? No, 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 I have to make sure my friend is happy about it. It's like,
Yeah.
like at this age, you don't have to worry about what your friend is gonna think about it. You need to be happy about your decision.
Yeah.
So that
Exactly so.
surprises me. It's shocking though. They're so worried about how their friends is gonna think about them. What are they gonna say if even if they are not getting good marks? Oh, I won't be having friends in the classroom. It's so much judging each other. I don't know, I think the kids are really, I feel sorry for them sometimes. Like, really, they are struggling with that so much.
I think that's universal. And this is one of the things, I saw it in China, I saw it in the Middle East, I saw it in Scotland, I
Yeah.
saw it in London, I see it in Spain, that there's always, a worry about where do I fit into this society. And this is, we're pack animals as human beings. We always want to understand, where do we fit? What
Sure.
is our role within, where I am at the moment? And I think, it's, you have to be incredibly brave to decide for yourself what you're going to show the world. I think that's a Jermaine Greer thing, isn't it? It's that and you are powerful because you have independence. You're not powerful if you're just one of many, but you're powerful if you can step forward and be just you yourself. But it's tough to do, and many people don't ever get to that point where they can do it. And many people, kind of last until they're in their 30s before they go, actually, I can be an independent person. Some people are lucky and they can do it really early on. And if they're school leavers or they're heading to university, that can make the difference for them as they have that agency to then take control of the life they want to lead.
I think confidence come from home. How they are when they're growing up, how the parents are having those conversations with them, if they're making mistakes, how the parents are reacting to those
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah. No,
So I think it just starts from home, and of course, education continues in school. Of course, that would be with friends, with siblings, it's a different story. You have to make sure the words that you're using in front of a child. Sometimes the words you're saying to a child, he or she might feel offended or he doesn't like it. You
mm,
might hurt his feeling and he will never open up in front of you because the words you use for that child.
mm.
It's so much as adults, we have to understand so much how we are communicating. And that's when we talk about human connection, we also talk about how we communicate with another human being.
Yeah, yeah. I will always say something wrong every year. And one of the things that I'm happy about is when I do say something wrong when I'm at school. If I say something that a student finds, actually, I didn't like what you said there. I love the fact they come and say I didn't like that, and they talk to me, and then usually I'll apologize. In fact, I always apologize because I don't want anyone to feel offended by something I say. And then if I was misinterpreted, I'll try and explain what I was trying to
Mm,
say. Or if it was an ill-timed kind of word, then it's I'll simply apologize for it, because I think that as well is they have to see the impact of their own words on others. And as the person in charge of this whole kind of operation in terms of their education, I want them to understand that no one is beyond that accountability. And people can't just get away with saying the awful stuff that they say, be it a school principal, a teacher, or an American president.
but like it's emotions, we all go through those. So it's perfectly okay because we know the child is watching us all the time.
Yeah.
So when you're at home, as parents, you have been watched. Kids are looking at you, how you're behaving. So same in school. So yeah, I think it's a lot in education system these days. So before we move on to rapid fire, one last message for our audience.
There's
For
rapid fire. Oh
oh
God.
yeah, so one last message for our audience, for our listeners.
A message from me. Um, Listen to the kids. And I think often as educators, the secret weapon we have in our schools is the energy and ability of the young people there, and the ideas that they have, and then also the ability and the energy of the families beyond the walls, who are really keen to play a part in their children's education, but also really keen to play a part in any child's education. So I think that's always the superpower in any school.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So we're going to move on to rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Okay,
One word to describe education today.
brilliant, but needing work.
Good. Historical figure you would love to have dinner with.
Oh, Lady Murasaki, the author of The Tale of the Genji. I reckon she's got some tasty conversation over dinner.
Amazing. Book that changed your perspective on life.
I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, a sci-fi book about a world that's completely become vampires and there's only one human being left.
Wow, that's amazing. What's one idea from philosophy you often come back to?
We suffer more in imagination than in reality. So think about what's happening in the real world and don't get carried away.
100%. What do you think is more powerful today, curiosity or knowledge?
Curiosity, definitely.
Most underrated skills students need today.
Underrated skills students need today. Reading and research, because it's kind of gone out the window and it needs to come back. And also penmanship. I think that might be a thing in the future.
Sure, sure. One country with an education system you admire.
Ooh. Um, there's so many who do it brilliantly in different ways. Oh. I definitely like the Japanese for how they teach young people about being. I love the Spanish kind of traditional primary school model. I love the kind of the middle years program in the UK. I love the UAE's innovation and their drive for AI and pushing different ideas, making sure they're ahead of the curve. I mean, this isn't. Yeah, I think there's lots of. If I could make my idea, this is what we do here at the Global College. We try and take different things from different countries and take the best.
Great. So, what's a belief about education you have changed your mind about over time?
Oh, that's definitely. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, you mentioned that. What's something students should focus on more outside the classroom?
Fitness and sport.
Great.
There are studies that show the more the more organized sport you play, the greater your outcome in school will be.
One message for the students.
I keep doing what you're doing. You are much, much better than you think. Trust me. I've been doing this for a quarter of a century.
Thank you so much for joining us today.